As we continue our study in the Gospel of John, we're going to take a little bit of a diversion in this video. This video is just about two Greek verbs. We are comparing agapao and phileo. That's two Greek words for love. So this might seem a little trivial or technical at first, but please be patient. Understanding these two words will have a big impact on how we interpret the next few verses. That's John 21, 15, 16, and 17. So first now, a modern question. People often say these days that the verb agapao expresses unconditional or altruistic love, in contrast to the Greek verb phileo, which they say refers to the love of friendship and feeling. Well, the notes of the NET Bible, the NET Bible is a good translation, and the notes are excellent, the footnotes, you can say. So the notes of the NET Bible explain that this idea that agapao and phileo are different from each other, this comes, they say, primarily from a number of British scholars of the 19th century, especially Trench, Westcott, and Plummer. Those notes go on to say, most of the Greek fathers like Chrysostom and Cyril of Alexandria saw no real difference of meaning. Neither did Augustine, nor the translators of the Itala, the Old Latin translation. This was also the view of the Reformation Greek scholars, Erasmus and Grotius, the view that these two words for love are the same. And then one more quote from the NET notes. Most modern scholars decline to see a real difference in the meaning of the two words in this context. Among them, and here's a list of scholars, Bernard, Moffat, Bonsirven, Bultmann, Barrett, Brown, Morris, Henkin, and Beasley Murray. So, are those 19th century British scholars right? Or are the ancients and most scholars today? Are agapao and phileo basically the same, or is there an important difference? How can we decide this? So now let's talk about the process of deciding what words mean in the Greek New Testament. The very best way to understand what a word means is to examine its usage. Certainly, this can't be done with rare words, but that's not the case here. These are words that are used many times in the Greek New Testament. Well, of course, it would be great if there were a dictionary of New Testament Koine Greek written by a native speaker of New Testament Koine Greek, but there's no such thing. The authors of our Greek dictionaries, or we call them lexicons, have studied how the word was used, and then based upon their studies, they suggest what they think are the meanings of a word. But if the word is common enough in the Bible, we can cut the dictionaries out and go directly to the source, how the word is used in the Bible. So, our method here, our process, let us examine how the words agapao and phileo are used in the New Testament and maybe the Septuagint, the Greek Old Testament. By the way, these are the two verbs. We could do the same kind of study on the two nouns, that's agape and philos, and we'd come to the same conclusion. So, usage. How are these two verbs used? That's how we're going to find out what their meaning is. Well, in 2 Samuel 13, in the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Old Testament, we see agapao for Amnon's violent and sexual love for Tamar. There was nothing altruistic there. Both agapao and phileo are used in the Gospel of John for the disciple whom Jesus loves. Both those words. Again, both agapao and phileo are used to speak of the Father's love for the Son. You can see John 3:35, and John 5:20. There's a lot of these verses. Be patient, or you can skip forward to the conclusion. In John 12:43, agapao is used of a kind of love that's not at all altruistic. What does it say in John 12:43? For they loved, and that is the word agapao, they loved praise from men more than praise from God. That's not altruistic love. So again, altruistic love, or you can also say unconditional love, is love just because of the lover, not anything done by the one who is loved. Altruistic or unconditional love. Well, John 3:19 has agapao in it, but that's not altruistic love. John writes there about the love, agapao, love men have for darkness. And then in 2 Timothy 4:10, agapao is used for Demas's non-altruistic love for the present age. These examples are showing that agapao doesn't necessarily mean altruistic love. It doesn't necessarily mean unconditional love. Well, another example, Luke 11:43, there we have agapao is used for the Pharisees' love, agapao love, of the most important seats in the synagogues and greetings in the marketplaces. And then if you look at Matthew 23:6, phileo is used of almost exactly the same situation. In John 10:17, agapao is used with a condition. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life. That's a condition. That's a reason. It's not unconditional love there. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life. That's what the text says. That's agapao for love there. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life. And in John 14:21, agapao is used with a condition. He who loves me will be loved by my Father. He who loves me, that's a condition, will be loved by my Father. It's a condition. It's not unconditional. There in John 14:21, again, that's the verb agapao. He who loves me will be loved by my Father. Agapao love. Conditional love. And again in John 14:23, there's a similar condition with agapao. If anyone loves me, he will obey my teaching. My Father will love him. Also in Matthew 5:46, if you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? That's conditional love. So what conclusion do we reach having looked at some of the verses in the New Testament and one verse in the Old Testament where agapao and phileo are used? Remember, the usage of a word is the best way to figure out what it really means. Well, the conclusion is that agapao does not always refer to unconditional love or altruistic love. Sometimes it refers to conditional or worldly love. These two words, agapao and phileo, have almost exactly the same meaning. However, the one distinct meaning of phileo is to kiss, as when Judas kissed the Lord in the Garden of Gethsemane in Luke 22:47. There, the word phileo doesn't mean love, it means to kiss. And the word agapao never means kiss in the New Testament. Well, there was a lot of detail here, I understand, but we got to our conclusion. Also, if you're very interested in this particular issue and you have access, read D.A. Carson's April 1999 article in Bibliotheca Sacra, a journal, a theological journal. The title is God is Love. And also, I would urge everyone to be careful when you hear things about Greek words. There are some inaccurate ideas floating around Christian circles. If you hear something about a Greek word, get out a concordance and see if it's true. And, you might be able to ask if the person telling you what a Greek word means can really read the Greek New Testament. This examination of how these two Greek words are used is an example of how we can learn the meaning of a Greek word. Again, a word's usage is the best indicator of its meaning. And lastly, this examination of these two Greek words is another very good reason why preachers, Bible teachers, and serious students of the New Testament should invest time and effort in learning Greek.